And here we go. Welcome to day 6. We're going to talk about the sower and the purpose of parables. So we're going to be reading from Matthew 13, 1 to 23. Sometimes I read these passages and think about them before I share the video, but this one I'm just reading it for the first time. Well, not the first time in my life, but the first time today. And we will just extemporaneously see what comes up. So Matthew 13, 1 to 23. On the same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the sea, and great multitudes were gathered together to him, so that he got into a boat and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went out to sow, and he sowed some seed. And as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprung up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, or you all who have ears to hear, let them hear. And the disciples came and said to him, Why do you speak to them in parables? He answered and said to them, this is going to be the interesting part. He answered and said to them, Because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For whoever has, to him more will be given, them, and those who will have abundance, and they will have abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he or she has will be taken away from them. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. And in them the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled, which says, Hearing you will hear and shall not understand, and seeing you will see and not perceive. For the hearts of the people have grown dull, the ears are hard of hearing, and their eyes have they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn so that I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For assuredly I say to you that many prophets and righteous people desired to see what you see and did not see it, and to hear what you hear and did not hear it. Therefore, hear the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in their heart. This is the one who has received seed by the wayside. But he who received the seed on stony places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself or themselves, but endures only for a while. For when tribulations and persecutions arise because of the word, immediately they stumble. Now he who receives seed among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and they become unfruitful. But those who receive seed on the good ground, are the ones who hear the word and understand it, who indeed bears fruit and produces some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. So that's the scripture for the day. So you saw that my daughter came in and interrupted the reading. But that's awesome. I think it probably can lead to a decent analogy. So if you were paying attention, you might have heard something very interesting. When the disciples asked Jesus why did he teach in parables, Jesus said, because some people are not meant to get it. And isn't that interesting? I love that I was able to read that to you all and to be able to expound on it a little bit, because very often in life we think that everyone is supposed to get everything, that everyone is supposed to understand everything, and most importantly, we often think that everyone's supposed to understand us. When we get into relationships, or the relationships that we come into the world in, very often when we express who we are, people do not hear it. They see how we are, and yet, and yet they don't see. They hear us, and yet they don't hear. And that is the experience that we all have in common. And yet we think that everyone is supposed to understand. But these spiritual teachings that Jesus taught, you can look at the world right now and see that a whole lot of people don't understand. That they see with their eyes, but they don't see. They hear with their ears, but they don't hear. They don't understand and they don't perceive. And that is how it is. And I know that that may be a struggle sometimes to think of that, to think that way. But it really is how it is sometimes. And just like how Jesus described in the parable, sometimes seeds fall on rocky ground. And you see that all the time. Like sometimes if you've ever been in, like, let's say you're in a relationship, or you're dating somebody, because I think it's a good analogy because we live in this really romantic movie society. You fall, your seed of your relationship falls on rocky ground. So when it first hits the ground and the sun comes up, you see the sprout and you're like, wow, this is about to be amazing fruit and stuff like that. But it doesn't have any roots. And so it ends up just burning up because it needs roots to survive. And so the very sun that brings out the life is the same thing that destroys it, because it's not rooted in the earth. And we see that in so many other areas of our lives. But then at the same time, sometimes how the parable, and Jesus already kind of expounds on this one, but you know, you may, let's say you're an artist, right? And you have put your artwork out there and everyone loves your artwork, right? And then when you first created it, you were just creating it out of love and beauty and all these like innocent things. And then people start paying you for your art. And all of a sudden, if you're not mindful, you forget why you created the art in the first place. And now you start trying to create the art to make money. And so then those people who try to convince you to do that, they're like the weeds, and they choke out the life of why you actually were doing this creative thing. And so it ends up choking out, and then it ends up dying. And that's when the seeds fall in kind of like weedy land full of weeds and tares, or whatever the case may be. And that also happens. And then sometimes your seed falls in fertile soil. And then when that happens, we see beautiful bounty. But here's the cool thing about being human and about understanding these teachings is that you can actually find good soil and put your seeds in good soil. I can say from my own experience, a lot of times when I was younger and less mature, I used to like feel this obligation that if someone asked me something, I had to try to make myself make sense to them. When I was really younger, I didn't think that at all. But then when people would get annoyed or frustrated and wanted me to share more deeply, I would try. And it just would get choked out. Or sometimes people are like, I get it. And then the next day they're doing something completely different. And there's only a few people in my life with whom I can share my thoughts and my heart. And then it comes back fruitful. And that's probably true for most of us. And I think that what's beneficial about these scriptures, if you hear them, that is awesome. If you understand them, that is awesome. That's grace. And it's very empowering also because it's teaching you, hey, you have a choice. You can put the seed of who you are and let's drop them in hard, rocky ground that nothing can grow. You can hang out with thorns and thistles and all this other stuff and get your seeds choked out, or you can put it in fertile soil. In the parable, the things just kind of like fell as the person was going out to put the things in fertile soil. So the intention of the person that was going to sow those seeds was to go to the fertile soil and put it in fertile soil. No one says, let me just go ahead and put this in rocky soil or put this in and put this among the thorns. or put it like people don't do that. They want to put it in fertile soil, and the sower was doing that. But it shows you that sometimes in life, when there's not like intentionality or consciousness, sometimes that's just how it happens. Sometimes we land in families that are rocky soil or full of thorns, and then sometimes we get lucky and we find ourselves in fertile soil, and we grow and we blossom as we could, and as we should. But being conscious gives you the opportunity to decide, hey, this is where I want to put myself. This is where I want to put my gifts. And we're living in a season where I think it's very important for us to be able to discern who has ears to hear, who has eyes to see, who has a heart to understand, and to choose who we put our treasures with, our seeds. Because if we put them in thorny ground and expect it to grow and it's getting choked out, that's on us. If we put it in rocky soil and don't cultivate the land of our relationships, that's on us. We have the chance to use our discernment. We have the scriptures. Hopefully you understood what it said, and hopefully you can use this wisdom to create a life of value and import and grace. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. There's a lot I want to say, but this is pretty much what's coming out. So hopefully you get something out of this. This is not scripted, so I'm just kind of speaking off the cuff. But I really hope you get something out of this video. I hope you read these scriptures for yourself. Sorry for the slow reading. I barely can see. I can barely see these things because it's so small. But it's worth struggling through it and reading it and feeling it with y'all. And I hope y'all are feeling it too. So thank you.